Bruce, how did you make it? I'm talking about your whole testimony, going through it right now. Bad season. I'm feeling kind of hopeless. And generally, there's a lot of reasons how and why. I'd say being in a local church and active is a huge one. I'd say being known in community is another one. I'd say being willing to sacrifice the short term for the long term is another one. All the trials, the worst of your life. I think the easiest way to communicate on how to overcome trials is to understand that whatever you're going through right now is not permanent. It's not permanent. I think sometimes we get so caught up in whatever we're going through and our present moment starts to feel like it's a permanent moment. And the reality is the present moment, that whatever you're dealing with is not permanent. That even if you are in a really bad situation, yet you have a roof over your head, access to the internet, you're here on a live stream with me, in the grand scheme of things, like you're okay. In the grand scheme of things, you're okay. In the grand scheme of things, it could be a lot worse. Right? I was with my therapist this weekend. I got to see him in person. I drove up from Boston to Maine. And we talked, and he pointed out this really interesting point. He said, like a huge chunk of the world will never know what it's like to own a car. And I was like, oh, man, that's crazy. That's a really interesting point, right? And so I think sometimes like just that perspective is helpful and healthy. So I think one, understanding that like, your current situation is not permanent. Your current situation is also a lot better than a lot of people in the world going through it. Then you say, okay, so one, if it's a question of perspective, that means I need a mental shift up here. We have a perspective problem oftentimes. Okay, so how do I change my perspective? That's where gratitude, church community, reading the scriptures, the soundtracks, the music, the things that you're listening to, the things that you're consuming, all of that plays into what you're going through and how you're perceiving these situations. Now, that's a mindset shift. Now, here's the deal. The mindset shift, when you have a mindset shift, you have to then get sober about like what problems in your life are causing you to quote unquote go through it, and are some of them self-imposed? And if they're self-imposed, how do you address those? How do you fix those? That part is, I can't give you general advice about that over the internet. I don't know enough about your situation to give you advice on whatever it is you're going through and how to help you fix that. Because it's not, it needs to be more specific and more clear and more focused. I can't give you generalized advice without knowing exactly what you're going through. If I know what you're going through, then I could at least try and give you some steps on how to overcome it. Right? So if you're going through a financial problem, it's going to be different than if you're going through a mental health problem. If you're going through a marital problem, it's going to be different than if you're going through a physical problem. So we have to figure out what is it that you're going through in order for me to give you any sort of advice on that. And again, even still, like when you're watching something on YouTube, understand that we are speaking in a generalized sense. Your situation might be different. What you're going through may be different. What you're dealing with may be different. So when we're speaking in a generalized sense, we don't know the ins and outs of your situation. This is why stuff like church community and perhaps therapy may be so essential to some of you guys. And perhaps beyond therapy, like if some of you guys are having chronic issues that are related to mental health, like a bipolar issue or some sort of anxiety disorder, you may need additional treatment for that to get you level for a season. That may look like things that you're uncomfortable with. So I don't know enough about your situation to give you very specific fine-tuned advice, but I would say generally most people can stand to benefit from a perspective that's rooted in gratitude for our own salvation, gratitude for what Jesus has done for us, gratitude in the sense that you're alive, that you're in the West, that you are, probably the best time to be alive ever. From there, non-negotiables, daily non-negotiables, outside, walking, moving, sunlight, Bible study, prayer, every day, consistently, some sort of body movement, exercise. I recommend strength training, but you don't have to, into strength training. The local church community. So if you're doing all of those things, and by the way, most people aren't doing any of those things, for the record. Most people don't get enough sunlight. They don't get enough exercise. They don't eat right. They don't sleep right. they're not reading their Bible. They're not praying. They're not in community. They're not in a local church. They're not known. They're lonely. So like, if we address all of those things first, then we can go on to the layer beneath that. I don't want to be too specific, but it's some things that are literal above my control, and I try my best to fix it, and it doesn't seem to improve. I know I'm privileged, but still struggle to fix it. Okay, so this is the thing. You can't consume yourself with the things you can't control. If there's things that are outside of your control, then you're going to exhaust yourself trying to fix things that you can't control. Control what you can control. This is like to me, conversations about systems and economy and this and that. You can't control those variables. You can only control what you can control. So if I'm starting from a perspective of gratitude, I'm doing all the regular things that humans have always done for all of civilization, like moving, breathing, going outside, connection with the Lord, connection with other humans, prayer. If I'm doing those things and the needle's not moving, then you got to get more specific with me. Is it a career trajectory, right? Is it a relational thing? Is it the people in your life? Is it your circle of friends? Right? But I think generally speaking, I would say, yeah, you need to lean into a different way of thinking, and that's going to come with the things you're consuming, and that's going to come with the way you're moving and going outside and reading your Bible and what soundtracks and who you're around. And generally speaking, if we just do those things, things often get better. Now, again, there are other people who are dealing with deeper things that are related to the way the neural pathways in their brain function that are just different. If you have OCD, if you have bipolar, if you have schizophrenia, if you have an anxiety disorder, that requires professional medical treatment, and you may need to go sit down with a psychologist, a therapist to perhaps see that. Like if you did all, like I met a guy who does all those things I just described. He's in a church, he surfs every day, he's outside, he works hard, he does all the things. And he still gets panic attacks every week. They're outside of his control. Okay, that's a person that needs to go get treatment. You understand? God uses modern medicine too. And props to that dude, he is getting treatment, right? So anyway, hopefully this is helpful. I want you guys to know, Occupied Till I Come, 60-day devotional on sale for our big Father's Day sale. 35 days in the Old Testament, 25 days in the New Testament. This is where we actually transition into the New Testament, day 36. And what's cool about this is we have a reading that you go through. There's a verse here that kind of summarizes the reading, and then there is a additional chapter of reading with custom journal prompts at the end of each reading. So there's also a section for prayer requests. I always recommend you keep track of your prayers. Why are we telling you guys about this? Well, to show off our brand new amazing overhead camera, but because we're doing our biggest sale ever. Well, excuse me, not our biggest sale this year. I think our biggest sale since Black Friday or Christmas, and this is $22. We usually have these upwards of $40. They're pretty much 50% off, available right now, and along with our entire Priest Provider Protector collection. So Father's Day always gets slept on. Don't sleep on fathers. Go scoop your father, your grandfather, your mentor, your pastor. Get them something. Get something for yourself. Every time you put this on, you're reminding yourself what it is that you are called to as a man of God, to be a priest, provider, protector of your home. We also have the individual pieces. We got some puzzles on here. We got the long sleeves. We got our cheapest hoodie we've ever made, $45 hoodie, same blank as this oversized tee, this is the one I'm wearing, lane 7. So go to blessgod.shop, get that now. I think you guys will appreciate it. Get your Father's Day shopping done. Like, knock it out. Don't worry about it later.